Welcome to the 20th season of the NitWits, a weekly roundtable discussion on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Our panel includes Neil Rudell of the Altoona Mirror and Mark Brennan of FightOnState.com. Between them, they've covered Penn State football for 70 years. The NitWits are hosted by WTAJ Sports Director Alex Colley, and each week we welcome a former Nittany Lion as our special guest analyst. The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, an independent firm, and a firm foundation for your financial future. By Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Courtesy Motor Sales of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By The Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By Health South, your rehab choice. Health South Altoona, ask for us by name. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, uniform, and mat rentals. By Reed and Solani Orthodontics. Doctors Reed and Solani provide orthodontics for children and adults. By W.S. Lee & Sons, your local food distributor. Go Penn State! By Allegheny Street Cigar. Allegheny Street Cigar, Blair County's only cigar lounge. By McAleer's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886. By Lakeview Sheds and Vinyl in East Freedom. You can buy off our lot or we can customize your dream shed. By Shields Awards and the Sports Shop. We have a fantastic selection of awards, apparel, and memorabilia at great prices. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you can get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Sunday.
Welcome to the NitWits, where for the next 30 minutes, we're going to be breaking down Penn State's win over the Northwestern Wildcats. We have the usual suspects, the Altoona Mirror's Neil Rudell, FightOnState.com's Mark Brennan. I'm your host, Alex Colley, and joining us in the chair this week, former Penn State Nittany Lion captain Mike Irwin. Guys, thanks so much for the time.
It's good to be here, Alex.
All right. Well, PSU had themselves quite the time in Evanston with a 31-7 win over the Wildcats. What stood out to you?
Well, you know, I'm a little split between, this is the first time they've been 6-0 since 2008. And so, I mean, obviously, this should be an enjoyable time for people watching it, and I think it is. But I also think when you measure them against the people that they're competing against for potential berths in the college football playoffs or Big Ten championships, that's when some other things begin to surface. I was very impressed with their defense. Once again, they're finding different ways to win. This week it was the defense, last week it was special teams, the week before the offense first made the great drive. So that stood out to me as what a great job they're doing on the defensive side of the ball.
I think this schedule has worked out perfectly for them because they've played against teams that are decent teams and they've been able to have some issues be identified going into this bye week. You know, on our site, prior to the season, we asked people what was the biggest trap game for Penn State, and everybody said Iowa, and even more people said Northwestern, and they went to both of these places, which aren't easy places to win. So I think on balance, yeah, I mean, are there some things they have to shore up? Of course. But overall, if you would have asked people, do you think Penn State's going to be 6-0 at this point of the season? I think a lot would have said yeah, but I think there would have been a good percentage thought that maybe they would have dropped one, including me. I thought they might have lost one of these early games to when Iowa or Northwestern.
You know, when the game started, it looked like Northwestern was holding us back. We weren't moving the ball very well. And then, I mean, I think the defense took over after that. And our defense, you got to give a lot of credit to the coaching staff down there. I think they have outstanding defensive coaches. I mean, from Brent Pry, the coordinator, who sets it all up, but Spencer on the defensive line and Smith in the defensive backfield. I think all those guys contribute, and I think the kids really want to play for them. I mean, they're enthusiastic, and even the fact that they run all these guys in there, I mean, they keep rotating like that defensive line. They're rotating constantly. I mean, they have like 3 defensive lines coming in there. Keep those guys fresh, and it helps the team morale to get so many people on the field at the same time.
Boy, and how about their number of young defensive linemen, particularly these ends? Penn State's among the leaders in recovered fumbles at this point. And a lot of that is because they're getting these strip sacks from these defensive ends. Shaka Toney was the latest one. Sharif Miller has already made the Bednarik list. Very impressive, the number of not only good players but good young players on that line.
Well, it's across the board on defense. The depth of athleticism. I know that kind of sounds weird, but I can't remember them having this many athletes on a defense. They've had athletes that have had, or they've had defenses that have had star players, But, I look at this one, it's like, who is the superstar? I don't know that there is. Maybe a Marcus Allen, but beyond that, you just have a lot of good guys who are making good plays. And Neil, to your point, think if you're an offensive tackle and you're blocking 270-pound Ryan Buchholz for 2 or 3 plays, and then all of a sudden they bring in 220-pound Shaka Toney. And that's the sort of things that they could do, and they've been terrific in mixing and matching and playing guys early and often. They are getting guys in the first quarter. They're running 2-3 lines out there. So the depth of athleticism just huge for them.
I have an issue with Buchholz. I think he stole that fumble recovery from Kevin Givens.
Didn't they credit it to Givens, I thought?
Initially.
Oh, did they?
But it was Buchholz.
Yeah, I think we have some photographic evidence. Yeah, I think we have. Well, you know what? They're fighting for it.
Well, the other thing, I know they're number 3 in the country in turnovers and number 3 in points per game. Hold the opponent somewhere around 9 points a game. Now you're going to see some real defenses coming up. I mean, Ohio State is outstanding front 7 of Ohio State. When they go out there, I mean, we're going to see other defenses that are going to compare with our defense, I think. But our defense is young, and there's a lot of rotating people in and out. I mean, hopefully they'll be able to hold up in those situations.
You mentioned about great players. I'll be curious as it moves forward how these guys maybe project in the draft eventually. Marcus Allen, to me, is as good a run support safety as they've had. To me, it goes back to Mark Robinson on the 82 team, who was just tremendous. But Grant Haley is really a shutdown corner in their secondary. Northwestern, you go out there, you usually get a pretty competitive game, a good offensive team, pretty creative. They've had NFL quarterbacks. I just thought Penn State did a great job there.
Yeah, when I say no superstars, I don't mean that as a negative.
Right.
I mean that in the sense that, a lot of times when you've had great Penn State defenses, you've had a Shane Conlon, guys who are in the national spotlight, they are comfortable taking Marcus Allen out for a couple series or Jason Kabinda, not because they're playing poorly, but so they're ready to go late in the game.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, Kabinda's another marquee player that I think outstanding on defense would be the Marcus Allen and Kabinda, and some of the other guys. Now, Haley might be a little vertically challenged. He's not a real tall kid, but he's quick. I think at one time he was the fastest kid on the team, so I'm not sure where he falls right now.
Sometimes Kabinda gets double-figure tackles, but then sometimes, like yesterday, it's a little more quiet.
No one had more than 5, though, yesterday, and I think that speaks to it. I think they had 20 guys had between 2 and 5 tackles, and it's kind of like early in the season there was a game where it's just crazy the number of guys who actually had tackles.
All right, we're taking our first time out, but when we return, we're going to talk more about Penn State's 6-0 start and what they'll be focusing on this week in practice. We'll be right back.
The Nitwits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, an independent firm, and a firm foundation for your financial future. By Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Courtesy Motor Sales of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By the Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By Health South, your rehab choice. Health South Altoona, ask for us by name.
We now return to the Nitwits. A roundtable discussion of Penn State football.
Welcome back. The 2017 Penn State football team was expected to be a good one. We've seen them through 6 games. How does it match up with what you expected?
Well, I think Mark started. I think most of us thought they had a chance to be 6-0. Maybe a conservative pick would have been 5-1. You think maybe they would have. And I think most people thought this was the one. More so than Iowa after what Penn State did to Iowa last year. Of course, when the schedule broke, you didn't know the Iowa game was going to be at night. The one thing that I think really they must address now in this open week is the ongoing challenges of the offensive line. I mean, they have a superstar that they're not able to free up all that effectively in a run game with Barkley. So I think I'll be curious to see how that's addressed this week.
Well, when you say how does it measure up to expectations, people thought they'd be 6-0 or 5-1, but I think they thought it would happen differently. I think everybody was kind of imagining that the offense would be just blowing people out and the defense would still be kind of a work in progress, and it's kind of been the other way around. Obviously, the skill players are fine. I think when you look at the offensive line, you have to that right tackle position. When Nelson goes down or isn't quite up to speed, and then when Chaz Wright goes down, all of a sudden you have 4 players with sophomore eligibility. And the difference from last year, Gaia may not have been the greatest center they've ever had, but he was a veteran player, played a lot of football, and you had man in there for a lot of last year. So I just think the fact that this bye week is coming at a great time for these young offensive linemen. I think they're going to be able to take a step back, take a deep breath. If you're a Penn State fan, you hope Chaz Wright gets healthy. Fries is going to be a good player, but I don't think he's ready yet. And I think if you get Chaz Wright back in there, that's going to have kind of a domino effect where everybody's going to play a little better.
Well, like you guys, I think most people expect them to be somewhere around 5-1 or 6-0 at this point, you know, of the schedule. But I think that one thing that's going to the problem I have is the short yardage offense that we have right now. I mean, and I'm not sure it's the offensive lineman. If you have Barkley standing back there waiting to get the ball and no forward movement whatsoever, and I know Franklin's sworn off putting a quarterback under center. I watched the Patriots. I watched the Green Bay today. They all bring their quarterback under center to run short yardage, and it gives the offensive running back a little more opportunity to get into the hole, get more momentum, and get in there faster and get downfield. So how long can these offensive linemen hold blocks? I mean,
well,
if you're running right through them, and they know they're looking for, especially on the short yardage.
They've made it clear. Now James did say afterwards that they're maybe holding some things for the second half.
No way, I thought they treated every game like the Super Bowl. How are you holding things for the second half of the season when you're
I doubt, though, that this is going to be a jumbo package under center with quarterback sneaks occasionally and, God forbid, a fullback. They admitted there's not even a fullback really on the roster.
They admitted it? Couldn't you just look at the roster and see there's nobody with an
I thought it was
FB by their
better
name?
that they admitted it. But, you know, at the
It was a revelation by Neil that they did not have a fullback.
But if you look at these other teams, the Michigans, the Ohio States, they're going to move that ball. Alabama's, I mean, they're going to get that yard. And I remember back when Hackenberg was under Bill O'Brien,
Yep.
He said, I can make any first down when I have a 3rd and 1. And he was very successful in doing it.
He was great with McGloin doing that too. But that was a pro-style system. Most of these college teams, I don't think, are playing with a fullback. I agree about moving Barkley forward and getting your offensive line exploding off the ball. But you know what? When they had to drive up the field against Iowa, they faced a couple 4th and 1s, and they got them. So sometimes when you're all bunched in there with electric football and that doesn't work, then people are wanting you to spread out and with all these.
Well, the other thing is you can't
you
compare.
do have
Mike,
to make a tough yard once in a while.
You can't compare what Penn State is doing to what the Patriots are doing or what the Packers are doing. Mm-hmm. Those are NFL teams who have unlimited time to practice. Mm-hmm. And I'm not. I get the argument that people are saying you need to have a better short yardage offense. They have said they're not doing it. So I think everybody has to kind of move beyond that. We could criticize it, but they're not going to do it.
Right.
And part of their argument is they don't have enough time to learn to teach these kids all these things. They don't have NFL summer and training camp and all that stuff.
I worry down the road it's going to cost us games. Like if you roll back a couple years ago when we had a lot of close games at the end, when a couple of those 7-6 teams, and you probably remember situations we at the end of the game and the clock beat, you're trying to use the clock a little bit. You can't use the clock if you can't run the football. You got to pass and the clock doesn't run, so it stops running. And I blame them for a couple losses for not having a good short yardage.
Okay,
offense.
but that's
not
already
under this
going.
staff, though, right?
No, that's a different staff. It was a different coordinator. But I wonder up the middle, though, because a lot of these guys, now when you say they're sophomores, but most of these guys were playing a lot, but they were playing in different positions.
Absolutely.
But so I don't know. It seems like a lot, the keying on Barkley and McSorley was coming from right up the gut, not necessarily the edges. Because they've run the edges decently.
No, listen, and the other thing, I think before the segment ends, we have to get to the field goal unit. I mean, I think we could agree to disagree on what they should do. They're doing what they're doing with the offense.
And they did adjust and score 30 points.
Right. For the field goal unit, I'm not sure what you do in an off week. I mean, I just don't know. I mean, this was such a weapon last year, and now all of a sudden, do you just tell everybody to take a few days off, try to get your head together? I just don't know what you do at this point, because it just sure seems like it's mental for that entire group.
Well, I don't know. I suggested maybe you open the competition a little bit more with Barbier, and I was almost told to go home before the show started.
One other comment, I want to stir the pot a little bit more if I can.
Please.
After the Indiana game, I was really upset about Tommy Stevens not really playing in that game at all. And here he comes from the state of Indiana. and he has all these credentials. He's supposed to be, and he's done well every time they've given him the opportunity.
You think he could kick?
I think Franklin felt terrible maybe after the game why he stuck him in this game, but I really think that McSorley wouldn't get injured. I mean, I think the more opportunities they give Tommy Stevens, the better
yesterday
he's
they did. They threw him the
They
ball
did.
a couple
It's
times.
about time for them.
I don't know. There was some speculation going on that Stevens maybe wasn't 100% for the Indiana game, and it looked like maybe they made up for it this time because he really touched the ball probably 7 or 8 times.
I think maybe they were kind of holding some things in their back pocket to when they were getting against what they thought maybe was a tougher opponent. And I will say this, Stevens, that kid, you know, they said before he got to Penn State, he's not just a quarterback, he's a football player. He was a really good defensive back in high school. That run he had down to the 1 yard line, whoa, was that impressive. So, Mike, I agree. If you can get him on the field more, I think that's something they ought to try to do in different things because maybe it does take a little bit of the focus off of McSorley and Barkley.
Yeah, I think in the Indiana game, especially in about the third or fourth quarter when we're up 3 or 4 touchdowns, and why not give the kid a shot at that point?
Well, maybe they're worried about him getting bumped up. Remember,
well, you got 2 things. McSorley could get hurt too. I mean,
yeah, he took 16 shots.
Right,
16
and their
shots
third-team
yesterday.
quarterbacks redshirting. Yeah. So that's where I think they're picking their spot.
I think they could be doing better with, you know, maybe when they have a 3 or 4 touchdown lead, getting a couple of these, you know, the second-team line, I think, got in there at the very end yesterday.
All right, well, it's halftime here. We're going to take a quick break, but when we return, we're looking ahead on Penn State's schedule. We'll be right back.
The NitWits are brought to you by Monarch Cleaners for all your dry cleaning, uniform, and mat rentals. By Reed and Solaney Orthodontics. Doctors Reed and Solaney provide orthodontics for children and adults. By W.S. Lee & Sons, your local food distributor. Go Penn State. By Allegheny Street Cigar. Allegheny Street Cigar, Blair County's only cigar lounge. By McAleer's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886.
Hi, this is Bill Contz. I'm a member of the 1982 national champion Penn State Nittany Lions, and you are watching the NitWits.
Hey, that was cool with Bill Contz. Excuse me, Alex. He's written a good book. I know I've been reading it this season.
Very succinct there, too.
Just want to plug that.
Well, when the Penn State schedule was released, it was this upcoming stretch that everyone was really talking about, seeing how they've played, how the Nittany Lions have played, how you think they're going to stack up here.
Well, you know, I think a lot of people with the 11 o'clock kick, a lot of Penn State fans, I'm assuming this included the team, got back and watched the Michigan-Ohio State game. Michigan, excuse me. Geez, Michigan, you know, they are not built for prime time. Last year against Iowa, they couldn't score 2 touchdowns. Same thing at home against Michigan State. You really got to question Harbaugh's progress. I know he's got a real tough injury at quarterback, but you know you got to be able to overcome that. And nobody's going to feel sorry for him. At least of all, a team that got beat 49-10. I think this thing is really circled.
Well, I think this is where when people are belly aching about the schedule not be the non-conference schedule, you know, oh my God, why are they playing this team? Because in the middle of the season, you're playing Michigan, Ohio State, and Michigan State. If they survive that gauntlet, they're going to be worthy of being, you know, provided they were to go on and win the rest of the games, they clearly will belong in that national title picture. And even if they were to lose one, they could be impressive enough, I think, to maybe scratch their way back. So this is what it's all about. You get a bye week. The bye week couldn't have been better placed for them. Let's see what this team is really all about. They had a chance to see some of their flaws, get to work on them during the bye week, now attack this portion, realizing what's on the line.
I know we moved up to number 3, so somebody was projecting that we're going to play Alabama in the playoff game. Now it's Clemson probably at Penn State. But this is, I mean, I think it's the toughest division in the country, you know, the football, Division I football. And we're going to play back to back to back. Michigan, Ohio State, and Michigan State. 3 marquee programs, and none of them are going to be easy. It's going to be interesting. And if we come through this, we deserve to certainly be in the playoff picture. But all these teams are capable. And,
it's great drama. It's what makes college football such a tremendous sport. I mean, pro football's great, and it has the country eaten out of its hand most of the time. But you know, you can lose games, and it's not the end of the world. You move on. I think the stage is set for really the most anticipated back-to-back weeks in a long, long time in Penn State football. At 6-0, having worked your way through everything that they have over the last decade plus, to be playing Michigan at home. I was a little disappointed that they lost the other night because I think that would have added even more drama. But now, and Ohio State consecutively, that's just terrific. And Michigan State's win shows that's going to be a tough game up there too.
Well, Michigan turned the ball over, 5 times. I think Michigan, they play that game again. I think Michigan wins that game. But 5 turnovers, not too many teams are going to come out there and win a game with 5 turnovers.
You want to start making these best 2 out of 3. It's like you and
No, but it's sort of, Michigan not coming in there undefeated takes a little bit of luster off the game. But still, they're going to be top 20. I think 17 or like 17 now. So they dropped from 7th to 17 or something like that.
Well, we'll see if there's a hang. Michigan is at Indiana, right, this week? That's I don't think that's ever to. Ohio State's had some tough games there. Penn State's had some tough games there. So I think we'll get a feel for where Michigan is coming off of that loss and, know what they're going to be. But if you're Penn State, you want, as Neil said, you wanted Michigan coming into that game undefeated. But I think you're going to be okay, whatever Michigan is, if you can handle that game, getting out to the horseshoe, that's going to be just an absolute blast. Everybody's got to be looking forward to that. And again, even Michigan State, they're a better team at home. I know they didn't play well last year, but well-coached team. So you got a great stretch with 4 great programs. This division's terrific. As you said, Mike, it's just a great division.
Mm-hmm. All right, we've got one last break, but when we return, we've got a special guest coming to the show next week. Not that Mike's not a special guest, but...
What do you mean I'm not special? I thought I was special. Well, I'm just one of these come-along guests.
You started it, Alex.
Yeah.
The Nitwits are brought to you by Lakeview Sheds and Vinyl in East Freedom. You can buy off our lot or we can customize your dream shed. By Shields Awards and the Sports Shop. We have a fantastic selection of awards, apparel, and memorabilia at great prices. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you can get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Sunday.
We now return to the Nitwits. A roundtable discussion of Penn State football.
All right, well, it is Penn State's bye week, so no predictions this week. But looking at the leaderboard for Nitwit of the Year, host chair grabs another one, Alex/Jamie, as Mark likes to point out. He's still the only one.
Nice job, though,
individual.
Alex. Way to come through.
We're proud of you, Alex.
Appreciate it. All right.
The guest chair has 1, and that was by Mike. We have to acknowledge that, too.
I've already been there once. Give me another opportunity.
That's why we have you here this week.
I can catch up real quick. Let me give me another opportunity.
Batting 1,000. We hope you join us here next week. We're going to have Penn State Director of Athletics Sandy Barber joining us. Of course, we'll be looking ahead to the big game against Michigan. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here next week.
The Nitwits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, an independent firm, and a firm foundation for your financial future. By Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Courtesy Motor Sales of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By The Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By Health South, your rehab choice. Health South Altoona, ask for us by name. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, uniform, and mat rentals. By Reed and Solani Orthodontics. Doctors Reed and Solani provide orthodontics for children and adults. By W.S. Lee & Sons, your local food distributor. Go Penn State! By Allegheny Street Cigar. Allegheny Street Cigar, Blair County's only cigar lounge. By McAleer's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886. By Lakeview Sheds and Vinyl in East Freedom. You can buy off our lot or we can customize your dream shed. By Shields Awards and the Sports Shop. We have a fantastic selection of awards, apparel, and memorabilia at great prices. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you can get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. and by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Sunday. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.